Hi there. Welcome to The Sacred Journey. The Sacred Journey is the program that reminds you that life is a wonderful adventure. Each and every experience we have is a unique and perfect opportunity for learning. I'm Joyce St. Germaine, and today's program has been a couple of years in the making. It is Y12SR, Yoga 12-Step Recovery. And I am so honored to have my dear friend Cynthia Griffin. Now, Cynthia is a woman with many, many gifts and skills. She's a yoga instructor, licensed massage therapist, personal trainer, Thai yoga practitioner. You and I have taught internationally in Belize and Costa Rica, and your list of talents and your breadth of knowledge is amazing to me. And we've been talking about doing this for a couple of years, so I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Yeah, it has been a little journey to get this together, but we are here today, and I'm really excited to share my knowledge about Y12SR, yoga and 12-step recovery. So thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm thrilled that we finally got to have this work, and we're in the great outdoors, so hopefully you'll get to hear birds and wildlife and no wood chippers and weed whackers. Tell us a little bit about you and your background, because I'm not exaggerating when I say you continue to amaze me with your knowledge, your gifts, your skills, and your experience. How did you get to this point?
You're so sweet. My journey's been a long one. I would say around 1996 I started studying alternative therapies and things like that more seriously, and it brought me into herbalism and yoga and all types of things. So, things arrive, and
Well, we are trying to pack a lot of information into, a 25-minute show. AA is something that some people say, oh yeah, I know what it's about. It's for alcoholics.
Right.
It's more than that, and you understand and realize that, and you understand and realize what yoga really is. It's not poses and postures only. How do the two of them work together?
In Y12SR, we take the 12 steps and we also take yoga and fuse them together because they are really similar, believe it or not. The beauty of Y12SR is we say all A's are welcome. Everybody is addicted to something. You could be addicted to drugs, alcohol, food, gambling, work. I call myself a bizaholic at times. Whatever takes you out of your true self and drags you to a different direction and causes you problems can be an addiction. Or something that you use as a crutch can be an addiction. So Y12SR invites all, as we say, all A's in. Anyone that's addicted to anything or someone that is involved with someone that has an addiction. Someone that might be a co-addicted or addicted to people, might be an enabler. So people from Al-Anon are also invited to these type of meetings.
And they're for teens also, correct?
Teens can come to these meetings also, yes.
Okay, now, the piece that you bring to the table, besides just talking about addictions, is the yoga piece. And when you first told me that you were studying the yoga to help release the trauma of addiction and what addiction actually does, I went, that's a pretty interesting combination. But at the time, I wasn't a yoga teacher, and I didn't know yoga as well. And I'm still a beginner at it, as well as I do now. But I see the role that yoga can play, because the more yoga I did, the deeper my shamanic practice became, the deeper my meditation practice, and they work together. So then I went, I get it. I can see why this would be an amazing gift for people. But yoga, we all know, works on the body, mind, and spirit. How is that of benefit to the addicted person?
Well, when people first come into recovery, they're very what we call swirly. They're all over the place. Their habits have been focused around their addiction. And when you take that substance away from them and they are in recovery, they don't know what to do with themselves. So they might have a lot of churning and thoughts going on in their head. What do? I'm anxious, I'm angry, I have all these kind of emotions that I used to bury with my addiction. Now they're up front. What do I do with them? So the beauty of yoga and the 12 steps is AA, the 12 steps, gives you that base of being sober. What do? They have the 12 steps, helps you to change your lives. It's 12 steps, one step at a time, continues to change your life. But the yoga part helps you go even deeper. It helps you to calm that mud in the water so you can sit and realize what actually is going on in your mind and take a look at it and be okay with it. Be okay with the good and the bad and be able to focus on changing that and be able to focus when challenges come into your life. Instead of running away from them, you face them head on and you face them with grace and you breathe through it. Yoga's more than just movement. A lot of people, as you know, think that the yoga movement, the goal is to be a pretzel, or to balance on one toe in this circus type of posture. It's not. It's more than that. It's breath work. It's meditation. It's movement. It's mantras, it's chanting, it's so much more to really bring you into yourself to make changes.
We were chatting when we were planning this. We were on the phone and looking over just a basic outline so we knew we could provide our viewers with as much information as we could in this time. And I want to go to a line that you gave me. There are issues in our tissues.
Yes.
Elaborate a little bit on that.
Eastern cultures firmly believe that emotions reside in our bodies. I don't know if you've heard of the chakra systems. We have different energy channels in our body, and different emotions correlate to those different energy circles, we'll say. Different organs in our system correlate to different emotions. So when we have traumatic things go in our lives, they reside in different parts of our bodies. Like you might notice that sometime if you're stressed, maybe it will hit you in the shoulders, or you can't breathe, or you get a stomach ache. You get that gut feeling like, oh, this is bad, I don't like it. So what yoga does is to help release that through different postures. We actually, in yoga, will detoxify the organs and churn them and release things. So when you're in certain postures that could be a little bit challenging, you notice all these emotions coming up. And when the emotions come up, you come into your breath and you sit with it and you notice it. And little by little, it might not be at that exact moment, but eventually those emotions will release and you'll feel so much better.
So then I will imagine, knowing finally what I have come to know about yoga, that if you're trying to release grief, you'll do postures for a certain organ versus if you're trying to release resentment or whatever. So I really see the benefits now for people doing this. Walk us through a typical class. If you went to a class, I know I'm kind of going ahead, but we're going to backtrack a little bit and talk about some scars. But let's talk about what a typical meeting, a Y12SR meeting.
So a typical meeting can be run a couple different ways. Most of the time you come in, it's a meet and greet, and
it's always by donation only.
It's a donational type of thing, so it's affordable for everyone. Some yoga studios will say, we recommend this for a donation, but if you can't afford it, you don't. You give whatever you can.
But you go anyway. You attend.
Yes.
You never use finances as
Exactly.
a reason to not go.
So it's a donational based program. It runs usually an hour and a half to 2 hours. So you come in, we ground, and it's either split with a yoga practice first and then a 12-step or yogic philosophy discussion. So it's like a 12 AA meetings. You come in and you discuss things. So you might come in, do the yoga practice. We'll have a particular theme that we might work on. It could be directly, word for word, based from 12 steps, or it could, as I said before, yogic philosophy. An example would be the ego. So we might talk about the ego being inflated or deflated and how that gets us in trouble. And that might be our topic. So throughout our yoga practice, we will talk about being humble, being in the moment, having gratitude, having our foundation, and talk a little bit about the ego. And then we have our discussion after. So a lot of times when they have the yoga practice first, it helps to calm those muddy waters so you can focus, really focus and feel what you are doing, and then we discuss it later. Sometimes meetings go the opposite way. They'll have discussion first and then do yoga after. And then we come into the Serenity Prayer, which is it's just an amazing prayer. And it's God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And then we end our meeting. So
you would do that instead of Shavasana? Is that?
No, you would do it after Shavasana.
Oh, okay. So you still include Shavasana is, for our viewers that don't know, corpse pose or final
yes,
relaxation.
at the end,
resting
final
pose.
relaxation. And it brings us back to, coming out of our practice in a calm state with an open heart.
So you still use yoga mats?
We use yoga mats.
So it's like a yoga class
Yes.
in that regard. Talk a little bit about samskaras and explain what they
samskara
are.
in yogic philosophy means a few different things, but I feel when it comes to Y12SR, samskara is really about our habitual patterns that we have in our lives and in our bodies, actually. And in
usually
our
yoga
mind.
can help you find those if you
Yes.
didn't know you had certain ones.
Yes.
I learned that.
Yeah. So even in addiction, we have particular patterns. It could be something that you learned from your environment, from your family, things that are kind of embedded into you. And with addiction, there's usually some kind of ritual that people do with their addictive behavior. So that's considered a samskara. There can be good samskaras too, habitual patterns. For instance, when you get up in the morning and you get dressed, do you put your right leg in your pants or your left leg? Do you have breakfast before your coffee? That could be a habitual pattern. So in this particular program, Y12SR, it teaches us to look, to see those patterns, because sometimes we don't until we calm ourselves down and notice what is going on in the moment every day. Where does our mind go? When do we want to run away? When do we stand firm? So yoga really helps you calm down to that realization. It's all about awareness, deep, deep awareness, down to even how your breath is. When we're nervous, our breath is short. We want to run. It works on the sympathetic nervous system. Like the cavemen, they had the tigers running after them. Their breath was short and they ran away. Addiction's like that too. It gets you, when you're in a challenging situation, you want to run away, so you grab for that drink or that person or whatever satisfies you at that moment. Where yoga teaches you have that foundation of your postures. Even right here, our foundation is sitting on the earth. that gives us everything we need. We sit strong and firm with our heart open and connected to our higher power, whatever that is. So it gives us strength to move forward and to really change our lives dramatically.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is when you've got those patterns, if you ignore your responsibility to work on them, it's going to be there the next day or the next hour, and you'll get countless opportunities to say, oh yeah, here it is again, and again, and again, and again. And I've seen how yoga can really help with that. So in partnership with the 12-step program, I can see people being able to welcome some extraordinary changes. I think that would be fantastic. I also see that as running parallel to some of the work I do with hypnotherapy, of that way to change the pattern. But that's not the right way for everybody, and this seems so all-inclusive. I think that's absolutely...
It actually changes the neurotransmitter pathways in the brain. This program, Y12SR, was developed by a woman named Nikki Myers right around 2003. And one of her things in her classes when she teaches the teachers is repetition. Repetition changes things. So when we come into yoga, we might do sun salutation, which is a series of different postures linked together. The more you do it, the more you just do it naturally after a while. So by repetition, you're changing those neurotransmitters in the brain. And same thing happens with addiction. Those patterns are ingrained, so yoga helps to change that. They have proven that scientifically. So it's pretty amazing.
It is, and you referred me to a website in preparation for doing this, and we'll make sure that our viewers know what it is, and it's pretty thorough, and it's got some great explanations and descriptions, and I think it's really worthwhile for our viewers to take a peek at if that's anything that they're interested in. How does somebody find out who is doing this in their area? And then do they have to commit to, I've got to do this for a year so I can get through all 12 steps? Can they go and try it out? Can they ease into it gradually? What would you suggest for people who are interested?
Well, first of all, there's a website, y12sr.com, nice and easy.
Yeah.
And you could even Google yoga and recovery, a bunch of different things come up. And in Connecticut, there are Y12SR programs, so when you get on that website, it will show you what town and studio. So I do highly recommend to look at the studio's websites, because things change sometimes.
Yeah.
I would hate to have people travel out and not have a meeting. But anybody is welcome. You do not have to commit to a long span of meetings. I highly recommend people just come and try it. I've had people come to classes that I taught that have never done yoga before. So it's for all levels. Brand new people. You don't have to be Gumby and to be able to do all these crazy postures. We use bolstering, we use mats, we do different postures. The instructor always will help you, with the postures and things like that.
So these are instructors that are trained in yoga
And Y12SR.
Yeah, that's the difference, and
Yes.
I want to be sure that our viewers understand that. And when you talked about bolsters and stuff, props that will help your body to get into certain poses,
Right.
or support you in those poses, or make them more restorative for you. So it's something that's accessible for everyone.
Definitely.
Now, Al-Anon people are welcome.
That is one of the gems of this program.
Okay.
That Al-Anon people that are co-addicted or codependent, we call it, or are in a situation where they are, around someone that has an addiction and is affecting them. The nice part of it is that we welcome all those people, and you get different views. You get the view from the person in recovery. You get the view from the person that is involved in the person that is in recovery. They don't have to come together. You can come to separate meetings if you choose to. but I have seen profound things happen with the mixtures of all these different people, the learning and the light bulbs going off, and just the growth of everyone involved. When you are co-addicted, you are just as involved in that addiction, whether you realize it or not. You might be covering up for somebody. You might be worried about somebody. You might change your life completely because of that addictive person. So the beauty is having people together sharing. It's about sharing and being in the moment and changing our lives for the better.
Okay, I'm going to also share your contact info with our viewers, so if someone has a question about it or needs a little bit of guidance about this or about any of the other things that you are well versed in, I'd like them to be able to reach you if that's okay.
Wonderful.
Now, we have about 5 minutes left, and I know we had to condense a lot of what we're doing, but I remember when you said, I have just learned about, before you started actually digging in and studying this, I have learned about yoga training to literally help you release from your body the effects of addiction and trauma. And I went, you've got to be kidding. How could there be this wonderful gift available to everyone that I have never heard anyone after taking a yoga class saying, oh, I felt awful, I wish I hadn't done that. Everyone, even if you didn't feel like going that day, goes, I'm so glad I went, that feels so good, my body and mind and spirit are so grateful, because it's body, mind, and spirit. And sometimes the body piece gets overlooked, or sometimes those over-exercisers, the compulsive exercisers, another addiction, that gets magnified and something else gets overlooked. But this is truly the balance between body, mind, and spirit.
Definitely.
So we didn't intend this to be a demonstrative, like, yes, let's show them what different poses are. But for our viewers that do know about yoga, just mention a few of the poses, just so they'll know we're talking real yoga. What are a few of the things that might be used?
We're talking real yoga. We're talking about, the deep hip openers, which can be, I don't want to scare the newbies, the new people to yoga, but we talked before about bolstering, and there's always different ways to do postures. So deep hip openers, like pigeon, balancing postures, foundational postures.
And there's modifications for all of those.
Yes.
If you have problems with your hips or your back or your knees or your balance, there's modifications. We have only a couple minutes left, and I want to go to a statement you made that I went, yes. Feel your body's sensations during the challenging postures. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm going to throw the ball in your court. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Elaborate.
So, life will always throw us challenges. It always will. We will go through some really tough challenges in our life, and maybe some of them will just, ease on.